So if your primary focus in this workspace world, Docs, Excel, etc., is collaboration, meaning live, real-time work with other colleagues, Google smokes Microsoft. It is just so much better. You can comment with each other, you can live edit, you can see who's editing what by colors. You can have, I think a YouTuber recently invited all of his subscribers to come into a doc, and he had millions in a doc editing at once, and it still worked. It didn't break. And so it's a very, very good tool for real-time collaboration. If that's your main focus, Google wins. Microsoft wins more so on like polish and more so on power. So if you need to crunch really big models, if you need to, well, that's mostly where it is. So if you need to crunch a really big Excel model, a regression or something like that, Excel's going to win every time. It's just such a good tool. And so again, I think the trend you're probably seeing with all of this is scale. As your business grows and as scale increases, Microsoft becomes a more realistic or reliable choice. Hello, hello. All right, let's talk today about something that I get asked a lot. Google versus Microsoft. Which should run my practice, right? And so what I want to talk about today is the Google suite of products, the Microsoft suite of products, when you should use them, if you should use them. A lot of advisors are talking about this lately, and it seems there's a bit of confusion or a divide or whatever you want to call it in the industry. So let's get into it. Thanks for joining another episode of Advisor Tech Trends, and I'll see you in there. Okay, so like I said, today we're going to go straight into like the digital backbone of your firm and talk specifically about how you run your business. Is it on Google Workspace or Microsoft 365? Before I jump into it, if you're still running Microsoft Office or Microsoft Outlook 2010, it's time to talk. You're in the right place. So what are we even really comparing? Like, let's define the battlefield per se. On one side, you've got Google Workspace, which for those that don't know, it includes Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Meet. So Calendar is what you think. Drive is a file storage. Docs is a like Microsoft Word. And then Meet is like Teams or Zoom or whatever. On the other side, we have Microsoft 365, which has Outlook, which we all know, Exchange, OneDrive, which is their document storage, Word, which is their writing tool, Excel, which is their spreadsheet tool, and then Teams, which is their meeting tool, right? And so both of these products are really going for the whole business per se. And I think it's fitting why one calls them 365 and one calls them Workspace. It's kind of like, okay, you're going to use this all day, every day, 365, and Workspace, it's where you're going to work. So it makes sense. Now, Google went to cloud before Microsoft did. Google or Gmail and Gmail and Google Docs and all of that was cloud-based before Microsoft, just because Microsoft is an older company. But both of these tools now you can access in the cloud. And so all you need is a browser, and you can access any of these tools. You don't need to download Excel. You don't need to download Word, etc. I think a good way to think about it, honestly, is Google feels like kind of a startup, right? I mean, they're one of the biggest companies in the world, but like the Google Workspace tool set feels like a startup, whereas Microsoft feels a bit more like a law firm. And maybe that's not such a bad thing, but I think that's the way I frame these two in my head. And there's pros and cons to each. So let's start with email and calendar first, right? So email isn't just how we communicate. It's like the infrastructure. And your choice of which software says a lot about how you operate. So there's no like wrong answer on the email side. I will have an opinion at the end of the call or at the end of the podcast, but Gmail is really fast and intuitive and very searchable. You can search things extremely well. A lot of people talk about that in the Google Suite. You can search by word, by date, by subject, by the description, etc. But their calendar, right? Like the shared calendar is not great. It's kind of clunky, doesn't always work. It's not great at sharing. So Google was really made for kind of smaller teams, right? And that was the startup point I mentioned earlier. But you can get in there fast. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to set up. The mobile apps are all great. Now let's shift to Outlook for a sec. So it's much more powerful at team scheduling. It gives delegation ability, which Google doesn't for meetings and stuff. But it can feel a little enterprise heavy, right? Like a little heavy. And so Microsoft gives you great control on your email sharing, your calendar sharing, but it doesn't give you the speed that Gmail does. Gmail gives you speed. And what I mean by speed is how fast you can get set up, how fast you can communicate through a calendar meeting. Like the clicks, Google has really thought about where there's keyboard shortcuts, the buttons to click are really easy. And so it's fast and intuitive, but it doesn't give you a lot of control. And that's often the trade-off. It's like, okay, if we're going to be simple and easy to use, we're not going to give you all these dials, bells, whistles to customize, right? It's a normal trade-off. Google's calendar, the way you can think about it, is really good until you have to manage like 3 staff and 2 part-time schedulers. Then it starts breaking down really fast. And so when we look at the email, both their emails are great. Used by probably 3/4 of the world that sends emails uses Gmail or Outlook. Like they're kind of the big players. The email works fine. They're both secure, SOC 2, all of that. It's more the calendar that they start breaking away, where Outlook's calendar is much more ready to deal with large scale deployments, deal with managing and delegation, whereas Google Calendar is more just made for mass, right? Like it's not really made to kind of scale like that. And so that's something to keep in mind when we come to the calendar and the email. Like I said, they both have their pros and cons, but you just need to know that going in. Let's talk about now kind of the workspace tools. So the writing tool, Docs or Word, the Excel tool, Google calls it Google Sheets, Microsoft calls it Excel, and then their document storage, Google Drive, etc. So Docs, Google Docs, and Google Sheets are out of box built for collaboration. They're fast, live editing. You can see what other people are writing live. No software installs. It just works on any browser. But if your templates are in Words or your old models are in Excel, you'll feel the pain moving it into Google. So it's kind of like you got to start there being Google, right? So if your primary focus in this workspace world, Docs, Excel, etc., is collaboration, meaning live, real-time work with other colleagues, Google smokes Microsoft. It is just so much better. You can comment with each other. You can live edit. You can see who's editing what by colors. You can have, I think a YouTuber recently invited all of his subscribers to come into a doc, and he had millions in a doc editing at once, and it still worked. It didn't break. And so it's a very, very good tool for real-time collaboration. If that's your main focus, Google wins. Microsoft wins more so on like polish and more so on power. So if you need to crunch really big models, if you need to, well, that's mostly where it is. So if you need to crunch a really big Excel model, a regression or something like that, Excel is going to win every time. It's just such a good tool. And so again, I think the trend you're probably seeing with all of this is scale. As your business grows, and as scale increases, Microsoft becomes a more realistic or reliable choice. And so just keep that in mind that, and maybe you're saying, hey, I'm only ever going to be 3 people, 1 advisor, 2 admin or whatever, then Google's going to win every time. But as you start scaling, you start having more compliance and all of that, Microsoft starts having more features. So, I mean, the main point here is Docs and Sheets win on speed. Word and Excel still win on power. And it's hard to have both. Now let's talk about meetings. So both of these tools have meeting software and communication software. So Google has Google Meet. They also have chat, but it's kind of built into Google Meet. So you can communicate via instant messaging with colleagues. It also has a meeting software, which is kind of like what I'm with you on now, like Zooms. Right? Microsoft Team wants to kind of, so they have a meeting software as well. So Google Meet gets you through the meeting. It kind of has a one-on-one meeting and you're done. Microsoft Teams wants you to run your entire week through it. Again, a similar trend. Google is lightweight, Google Meet, easy to use. You just need a browser. You don't need to install anything. It works really well. Quality's good. Teams has built-in chat, share files, project tracking, a ton of stuff. They want you to use Teams as kind of your tool for the whole week. And so sometimes it seems like overkill, right? And so kind of if you zoom out, like I said, Google Meets gets you through the meeting. Microsoft Teams wants you to run your entire week, and that should say enough. Now, on quality, they're both great quality in terms of the video, audio, communication. In terms of starting them up, Teams, you can just join on a browser, same with Microsoft. For a while, Teams was really glitchy. I think they just kind of moved really quick during COVID. They gave the whole world Teams for free, and it just blew up. So, I mean, it's kind of the same vibe. You're not going to go wrong with either of these, but Teams will try to pull you in with all kinds of features that it's going to want you to do, right? So now the fun section for advisors is compliance and security and integration. So if you've kind of grown your team and you're becoming more and more stringent, let's say you're doing discretionary trading, you maybe have multiple licenses in your firm, you're starting to do all kinds of stuff like that. Microsoft probably has the edge. Legally, like legal hold, e-discovery, DLP, SOC 2, all of these security protocols are automatically built in with Microsoft. They have some of the largest teams in the world on their tool. By far, they're the most compliant and security driven, which is probably why you feel some clunkiness, right? Like inherently, when you dial up the compliance, it's going to dial up the complexity or the clunkiness. Now, Google can do all this stuff too. It's just, it takes a lot more effort, and you're going to need third-party tools baked into Google to do it. So that's not really their primary market. But if you're an advisor that needs more than email, you need audit trails, permission controls, compliant file storage, then you're probably going to lean more towards Microsoft. So now, in terms of integrations, when you think of CRMs like HubSpot, Copper, Cloven, Google wins. They integrate with almost every CRM out there, really well integrated, very fast, simple, easy to set up. Microsoft is a little different just because they own their own CRM called Dynamics. So they obviously favor that one. But they also integrate really well with back office tools. So like Salesforce, for example, they integrate really well with. ERPs, they integrate really well with. So again, it's a question of scale. But I mean, I've been in this Canadian advisor space for a number of years now. Most of the advisors I talk to are 1 to 5 staff, right? And that's kind of Google's place. Now, a lot of you use Microsoft just because that's what you've always used, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's just valuable to understand what the difference is and when you go from one to the other, if ever. And so keep that in mind. So, I mean, here's my kind of final take on this whole thing. If you're a solo advisor or running a lean team, like I'm saying, 1 to 5 users, Google Workspace is like having a Tesla, I guess, right? Like it's fast, it's intuitive, it's low maintenance. If you're managing many staff, permissions, compliance, Microsoft is kind of like the Mercedes. It's powerful, it does a lot, but it's full of knobs and tweaks that you can do, right? And so Google makes you faster, Microsoft makes you safer. And the question is, which one does your business need at this point? Now, the good news is you can switch between them. It's not hard. I personally, in our business, lean more towards the Google. We actually use something called Zoho just because we're built on that. But Zoho is much more like Google. It's intuitive, it's fast, it's easy to use. It doesn't jump through all the hoops of compliance, et cetera, that I may need if I'm a 100-person company or whatever. And so, I mean, just keep that in mind, that both of these are secure enough for 98% of your issues. But Microsoft is definitely more so in edge cases that you may need. It does more when you scale your team. So keep that in mind as you scale. I hope this was valuable. I hope you felt my kind of story of scale and all of that makes sense. As always, please like and comment and subscribe, write a review. Feel free to reach out to us at cloven.ca or comment in one of these clips, and I'll see you in the next one.